This is peak chess at the Tech Mahindra Global Chess League. We have Vishwanathan Anand from the Ganges Grandmasters, 5-time world champion, taking on the current and reigning world champion Domaraju Gukesh from the PBG Alaskan Knights. What a clash we have! And it's a best of two 20-minute rapid game as the FIDE president Arkady Dvorkovich makes the first move on the board of Vishwanathan, who is actually also the FIDE deputy president. Very cool there. Now, Vishy zones in. He's playing with the white pieces against Gukesh in game 1. There are 2 games in the round robin stage, ended with 1 win for Vishy with white and 1 draw with the black pieces. That was 2 exciting games, and these 2 promise to be very exciting. The handshake here, and off we go. Vishy opens with pawn to e4. Gukesh plays Caro-Kann defense. He played the Sicilian last time. This time he goes for something that could be said as something a little bit more solid against Vishy. Knight to c3. He takes the pawn on e4. Knight takes e4. And knight f6. He brings his knight out here. Vishy takes. Knight takes f6. E takes f6. Here taken. And they are doubled pawns. Pawn to c3 played. And the bishop comes out to d6. Vishy brings his bishop out to d3. Castles. This is a well-known line in the Caro-Kann variation. This knight takes f6. It's gaining popularity recently. Knight goes to e2. And we have h5 on the board. Vishy quickly castles. And Gukesh even further pushes his pawn down the board. He wants to go h3 and really soften up the white king side. But Vishy goes h3, stopping the pawn in his tracks. Knight goes to d7. And now the bishop comes to f4. A very interesting move. You can see if you take here, queen takes and bishop f4. I have queen e4 with a double attack, which is why he goes knight to f8, queen d2, and now Gukesh goes with his knight to g6, putting pressure on the bishop on f4, takes, queen takes, and now Vishy brings his rook to e1. The position is very interesting. It's even, but white has his trump cards, a queenside majority here, and he starts pushing it with pawn to c4. Yes, the d4 pawn is weak, but it also means that there are chances of pushing d5 at some point. The rook joins in to d1, and now Gukesh brings his bishop back to c8. Now both the rooks are in the game. Vishy plays his pawn to b3. Maybe it's time to... Oh, he doubles down on the e file. Bishop takes g6. Kind of a committal decision here by Anand. But he sees that there is a direct way in which he can try and get the d5 break. Now rook goes to e8. And Vishy chops off on e7. And it's important now to take queen e7 perhaps. But he takes, yes, he takes with the queen. And now Vishy is going to push d5. He's got the break he desires. It's important for Gukesh not to take on d5. He takes it. It's a mistake because now queen d5 check. And the problem is that queen d4 is going to hit a7 and h4, both these pawns. So king h8 played, and now queen d4 is an extremely strong move that gives white a... Vishy takes his time. He goes for the knight jump, which is also super strong. He wants to go knight d6, threaten knight f7, and Gukesh instantly realizes his mistake, goes king h7. Once again, queen d4. This would be an incredibly strong move, but Vishy is tempted by taking the pawn. It's not a bad idea. He takes the pawn on a7. Bishop comes out to f5. The bishop is quite decently placed. The knight drops back to b5. It's a very logical move. You don't want your knight to be offside. Bishop c2, and now rook d2 is bad because check, and then you kind of get your major pieces on the last rank, and the pawn on h4 becomes a big weapon. So that's why rook c1 is a good move. Rook d8 played, and the queen comes out to f3. Queen e5 played, and once again he's toying in with this idea of queen e1, king h2 and rook d1, and this is actually something that Anand shouldn't fall into. He doesn't. He plays queen c3, queen f4. Another beautiful move. If rook c2, rook d1 is a problem. If queen c2, rook d2 comes, so rook e1 played here by Vishy, and now the bishop drops back, and Vishy Anand now has a winning move with queen c1, trading off the queens, because otherwise the black queen has to go all the way back to b8, which is like super passive. And Anand is going for the queen. He's played impeccably until now. He finds it. Queen c1 on the board. He has 6 minutes 25 seconds. g5 by Gukesh. And now Vishy takes the queen. Pawn takes. And he plays his pawn to f3. Gukesh comes in with the rook. A very good move is knight c3 to defend the a pawn. But he makes a big mistake with a4. And Gukesh instantly attacks the b3 pawn. This was somehow maybe missed by Anand. He maybe took it that this was not happening, and Gukesh is back. This is somehow knight c3, rook c2 and knight d5, and now taking here, and rook e7 would have been winning. But anyway, let's get back to the game. He goes b4, bishop takes, knight comes back to c3, and bishop b3 played, pawn pushed forward to c5. You can see that Vishy Anand is clearly pressing here still, but Gukesh's position also looks nice with the bishop now having something to do. Bishop d5, and he jumps in with the knight to d6. Gukesh goes after the b pawn here, and Anand plays rook d1, attacking the bishop. The bishop drops back to c6, and you have this very powerful move, rook d4, which attacks f4, defends b4, g5, defending the pawn, and Vishy chops off the pawn. If you take here, there's check, and I win this bishop. So very important move now is to give a check and come back, but Gukesh blunders. He goes g4, takes h3. He's giving up pawns in order to get counterplay, but this is too slow. And Anand quickly gets his knight into the game. Beautiful play here by Vishy Anand, and he is totally winning. Look at the pressure and the stress in the moment. Vishy shaking his head. He has 4 minutes 37 seconds. Gukesh has 56 seconds in hand, and this one is looking like a massive win here for Vishy Anand. Knight to d6, and Gukesh is running out of time. He goes king to g6. Vishy chops off another pawn. He's 3 pawns up. Well, it was clear that Gukesh's move g4 was a very rash decision. He shouldn't have done that in that moment, but he couldn't find a way to make progress. He goes back, bishop to c6. And now Vishy pushes his pawn to b5. It's like this is the right time when I can liquidate the game. Bishop takes b5, knight takes b5, rook takes, and now rook comes to c4. The game is over, the pawn is pushing through, and Gukesh resigns. Vishy Anand scores his first win here in the third place match of the day. A fantastic game by him, and Gukesh, well, he didn't play so well. He got his chance, but when he got it, he blundered in a massive way. You can see him looking at the other games of his teammates, just going back to this moment where he had his chance after rook b2, rook d1 and rook d4. He had to find this move instead of g4, give a check, king goes to h2 and come back here. And now the threat is bishop f3, and it's very difficult to hold on to it. If you go rook d3, I can now take on b4 when the position gets equalized. Otherwise, bishop f3 is a massive threat, and I can continue with the check, and it is a draw. So miss here by Gukesh, Vishy scores a win, and the Ganges Grandmasters also win the first match against the PBG Alaskan Knights, and this would be something that Gukesh would want to correct it in the second match that will happen in some time. But as always, he sets back the pieces and is